Welcome back to the Fairy Garden Discoveries. Sometimes, when things don't add up, it's not because anyone did something wrong. It's because counting takes care, sharing takes attention, and numbers work best when we slow down and check. The idea began with excitement. "We should have a berry feast!" one fairy exclaimed, wings fluttering so fast she nearly spun in place. "A feast!" another cheered, "with bowls and plates and everything." Soon the whole garden buzzed with happy plans. Fairies imagined shiny red berries, deep purple ones, and little blue berries that popped sweetly when you bit them. They talked about music and laughter and sitting together under the stars. Mella hovered nearby, smiling quietly. "A feast is a wonderful idea," she said, "but we'll need to plan it carefully." The fairies nodded eagerly. "How many fairies?" Mella asked. They counted themselves, one by one. "And how many berries will each fairy need?" she continued. Someone shrugged. Someone else guessed. Mella tilted her head thoughtfully. "Let's count what we have," she said. "Then we can make sure everyone gets enough." The fairies agreed, grabbing baskets and heading toward the berry bushes, already humming with anticipation. The berry gathering was joyful chaos. Fairies flitted from bush to bush, filling baskets with bright red berries, dusky blue ones, and plump purple ones that stained your fingers the moment you touched them. Laughter echoed through the garden as baskets grew heavier. "One for the basket," a fairy said cheerfully. "And one for me," she added, popping a berry into her mouth. Mella noticed, but said nothing. Soon the baskets were piled high. They carried them to a long leaf spread across the grass and poured the berries out in a colorful heap. "All right," Mella said. "Let's count." They counted carefully together. 1, 2, 3. 12, someone announced proudly. "Perfect." Then a fairy licked her fingers. "Oops," she said. "That one was squished." Mella glanced back at the pile. "Let's count again," she suggested gently. This time they counted 11. Everyone blinked. "That's strange," one fairy said. "We just counted 12. They leaned in closer, counting again. 1, 2, 3, 10, another fairy said, confused. 10? Someone echoed. "But how did we lose 2? No one answered. A fairy wiped her mouth quickly and folded her wings behind her back. "Maybe the berries rolled away," someone suggested. Mella scanned the grass. No berries had escaped. "Let's try again," she said calmly. They counted once more. 9. Groans rippled through the group. "The numbers keep changing," a fairy cried. "This feast is impossible." Mella watched quietly. She noticed purple smudges on fingertips, red stains on smiles, blue juice on chins. She said nothing yet. Instead, she said, "Let's slow down." The fairies sighed but nodded, frustration beginning to bubble where excitement had been. They tried counting again, even more carefully. Mella suggested lining the berries up in neat rows. "This way," she explained, "we can see them more clearly." They arranged the berries side by side. "Now we can count by groups," Mella said. 2 rows of 5. Perfect. Then a fairy reached out. "Just one," she whispered, glancing around. Crunch. Mella watched the row shrink. "Let's check the total again," she said kindly. They counted. 9. A long silence followed. Finally, someone sighed. "I don't think the berries are the problem," Mella said gently. The fairies looked at her. "I think the numbers are trying to tell us something." A fairy swallowed. Purple juice dripped down her finger. Mella suggested they try a different approach. Instead of counting one by one, she said, let's group the berries. She arranged them into small piles, 3 berries in each group. Groups help us see patterns, Mella explained. Patterns make counting easier. The fairies nodded, relieved to have a new plan. They counted the groups. 1 group, 2 groups, 3. Everything lined up beautifully, until someone reached out again. This one's misshapen, a fairy said, popping it into her mouth. No one will miss it. Mella watched a group quietly turn into 2. Let's check again, she said. The groups no longer matched. Groans filled the air. Why does this keep happening? Someone cried. Mella didn't answer right away. She noticed berry juice shining on lips like tiny smiles that told secrets. Next, Mella suggested sorting by color. All the red berries here, she said, making a neat pile. All the blue ones there. The fairies liked this plan. It felt organized, sensible. They counted the red berries first. 6. They smiled. Then they counted the blue ones. 5. That makes 11, someone said proudly. Mella nodded. Then a fairy sneezed. Oh, she said. Berry tickle. She wiped her mouth quickly. Mella glanced back at the red pile. It now had 5. Did the berries change again? Someone asked. Mella tilted her head. Berries don't move by themselves, she said gently. The fairies shifted their feet. No one spoke. Purple stains glistened in the sunlight. Frustration crept in. This feast will never work, one fairy groaned. We keep starting over, said another, and it never adds up. Some blamed the berries, some blamed the baskets, some blamed Mella's careful plans. Mella stayed quiet. She watched. She noticed how every time counting began, chewing followed. How every mistake came with sticky fingers and innocent smiles. Finally, Mella spoke. I don't think the math is wrong, she said calmly. The fairies paused. I think something keeps changing the numbers. A fairy swallowed loudly. Another wiped her hands on her skirt. A third looked at the ground. Mella pointed gently. Math works when things stay the same while we count, she said. But if something changes? She let the sentence hang. A fairy sighed. Okay, she admitted. I ate one. Another laughed nervously. So did I. Soon, everyone was giggling, showing berry-stained smiles and fingers. Oh, one fairy said. That explains a lot. Mella smiled, not annoyed, not triumphant. Now we know the problem, she said. The fairies nodded, relief washing over them. And now, Mella added, we can fix it. They set the berries down again. This time, no one reached out. With everyone finally being honest, Mella suggested they begin again. This time, she said kindly, let's promise not to eat the berries while we count. The fairies nodded solemnly, hands clasped behind their backs. Mella arranged the berries into neat groups of 4. 1 group for each table, she explained. Grouping helps us see how many we really have. They counted the groups together. 1, 2, 3. Everything stayed the same. No berries vanished. No numbers changed. The fairies blinked in surprise. It's working, someone whispered. Mella smiled. The math didn't change, she said. We did. Next, Mella suggested making patterns. Let's set the bowls like this, she said, arranging berries red, blue, around each plate. The fairies loved how it looked. And patterns help us notice when something's missing, Mella added. They stepped back and admired their work. Every bowl matched. Every plate was even. No one snacked. Not yet. Mella counted again, just to be sure. The numbers stayed true. The fairies cheered softly, clapping their wings. I didn't know counting could feel this calm, one fairy said. Mella laughed. Math likes honesty, she said. At last, everything was ready. The berries were divided evenly. The bowls were full. The patterns held. Mella counted one final time. Perfect. The fairies gathered around the feast, eyes shining. Can we eat now? Someone asked, bouncing. Mella nodded. Now it's time. The fairies laughed and reached for the berries, this time without hiding it. Berry juice stained their fingers and faces again, but now it was part of the celebration. No counting required. As they ate together, Mella watched the fairies smile and talk and share. Planning hadn't taken the fun away. It had made room for it. One fairy wiped her mouth and grinned. I guess planning matters, she said. And honesty helps, added another. Mella smiled warmly. Math isn't just about numbers, she said. It's about paying attention and telling the truth. The fairies nodded, mouths full and hearts happy. The feast was a success. Not because there were berries, but because everyone knew exactly where they came from. As the feast wound down, the fairies lounged happily on leaves and smooth stones, berry bowls empty and fingers stained on purpose now. Laughter drifted through the garden, slow and satisfied. Mella sat nearby, watching the pattern of it all. Not the berries this time, but the fairies. How they shared. How they waited their turn. How no one rushed or hid or pretended anymore. One fairy leaned back with a sigh. You know, she said, the feast was more fun once we stopped sneaking berries. Another nodded. And once we actually knew how many there were. Mella smiled. Planning didn't stop us from enjoying the feast, she said gently. It made sure everyone could. The fairies grew thoughtful. I guess the numbers weren't tricky, one fairy said slowly. We were. Mella laughed softly. Learning usually works like that, she said. As twilight deepened, the fairies helped clean up together, stacking bowls and brushing leaves clear. The garden felt calm, balanced somehow, as if everything had found its place. Mella looked around with quiet pride. Counting had helped them see what they had. Patterns had helped them notice when something changed. Honesty had helped everything finally make sense. She turned to the others. Math isn't just about numbers, she said warmly. It's about paying attention. And being honest, added a fairy, wiping berry juice from her chin. And planning, said another, so no one is left out. Mella nodded. When we plan carefully, she said, and tell the truth about what's really happening, everything adds up. The fairies smiled and fluttered home, bellies full and minds brighter. Some lessons help you count berries. Some help you share them. The best ones do both. Remember, planning helps us see clearly. Honesty helps plans work. And when we pay attention together, everything adds up.